Okay, so as you can see here on my screen, we are in Business Central right now. And as you can see, this is a UAT test environment that I set up, and I just called it Continia demo environment. And what we see here is this activity pane is all related to the Continia document process. So what we're going to be doing here today is I'm going to walk through the physical process of importing an expense invoice. So we'll pretend that a vendor sends us an expense invoice. I'm going to send it through Continia, and we'll see how it works and how that information can be extracted and created within this ERP system. The second one will be a physical three-way match that I'll demo. So you can kind of see how it can match with a physical purchase order that's already open in your ERP system. And the last one, I'll just kind of show you, it's not really related to the AP side. It's going to be more of a sales order creation, just to give you an idea of what else Continia can do. So let's pretend, I'm having a regular work day and I receive an expense invoice from one of my vendors. I see that I got in an email, so I'm going to open it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm physically just going to forward that invoice that they sent me to Continia. And before I do that, I'm going to show you a page that's called Document Categories, in case you're wondering where I'm sending this, right? So when you install Continia, it basically pre-configures a lot of information for you. So if I'm dealing with purchase invoices, I want to make sure that I'm sending it to this email address. So I'll just go ahead, copy email address. And let me just go ahead and open. Right, so I'll punch that in. There we go. Subject can be anything. Just write invoice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that expense invoice that the vendor just emailed me, right? Let's say I'm just at my desk. Now all I have to do is click send. So now what I've done is I've basically forwarded that document to document capture. So what's going to happen now is if I refresh the page, I should see a document that's pending OCR. Once it's done pending, it's going to move to ready to import. But by now, it should already be ready to import. So I'm just going to refresh my page. And I should see that I have a document that's ready to be imported. There we go. I'll click on ready to import. I can now see this is an email that came in from this person. I have the email subject and the times of when it was OCR'd and when the physical email was received. I'll go ahead and click import file. So now it's physically importing that document through document capture. Lets me know that one file has been imported. I'll go ahead and click close. Now I have two documents to be registered. So I already had one in here just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. So I have a sales order document that's waiting to be registered. But as you can see on the screen, it'll tell you what kind of document you have and where it is and if it's ready to be registered or not. So I'll go ahead and click on this little hyperlink here. And that'll physically take me to the document journal. So as you can see now, here is that invoice that was sent to me from our vendor. And let's say, it's from first up cleaning. As you can see, it already retrieves the correct vendor because I've trained the system to know that, hey, whenever I send in an invoice from this vendor, look for this text. So you can add search text to every single vendor template that you create. So this is a vendor template that I created for this vendor. This vendor exists in our ERP system. And I can add as many search text characters as I want to basically have the system accurately pick up the correct vendor template every time I scan one of these invoices in. Then if I scroll down here a little bit, what we're looking at here is the physical document header fields. As you can see on our physical invoice here, it's already retrieving data, right? So it's retrieving contact information. And if I click on one of these, if I click on invoice number, as you can see, it highlights the physical field of where it's looking up, and then where I have dragged to pull this information. So let's say I want to redo it. I'll just go ahead. Oops, sorry about that. Let me do this. So right now I have nothing in here, right? If I just go ahead and click here in this field, I'm just going to drag over the information that I want to retrieve. So now I'm physically training document capture where to retrieve this information, so that next time I scan an invoice from this vendor, it's going to know, oh, okay, invoice number is going to be located right here. Next. So then we have invoice date, right? I clicked on invoice date. As you can see, it hopped to the next information that I'm extracting. Due date, that's physically extracted from the vendor MasterCard. It knows that it's 30 days for their payment terms. Unless, the due date is included on the invoice, we can extract that as well. Our contact, as you can see, it pulls contact information. So it's kind of, while me clicking on each field, this is where I can physically train the system, be like, oh no, that's not where the contact is. Let's say contact is over here. I just physically drag over, and now it's picking up that. But obviously our contact here is just going to be here. So easy drag and drop, very user-friendly. I'll move on down to my amounts. Subtotal, I've trained the system to always look for subtotal, and it'll be on the same line. Amount including tax, always to be at the bottom. So this is kind of where you're training the system on where to pick up this information. Line posting, so office maintenance, right? The description of what the invoice is for. Office maintenance for then, 15 hours at $50 an hour. Here's that total. And then once everything looks good, I can basically just go ahead and register this document. If I don't like it or it doesn't look good, I can reject it. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and register. So this is kind of your time to confirm that everything looks good. And once I register it, as you can see, the system physically creates a purchase invoice for me. So instead of, receiving that email invoice, me jumping into Business Central, going to the purchase invoice page, punching in all of this data manually, going to the line, it's picking up all that information for me, and it's eliminating that manual data entry that, someone in accounting would have to do. And it kind of does it all for you. And based off of those fields that I trained the software to pull from, it kind of knows what to fill in where. So then going forward, it knows that next time I receive a document from this vendor, it's going to know where to extract the information. So this is kind of an example of how, an expense invoice would be received, imported through Continia. And as you can see now, I have my purchase invoice, and I can move to posting or whatever it is that needs to be done for the next steps from accounting. And this document right here will always be attached with this purchase invoice that will be found in your system going forward. So if you ever look up this purchase invoice, it'll always include this document as an attachment. So that's basically just the easy walkthrough of a purchase expense. The document hasn't been posted. That's okay. Let's exit the page. So now, obviously, I have nothing on my document journal. I have nothing waiting. This is what we're going to, so the next document I'm going to do is a PO invoice for a purchase order that exists in the system. So let's say I'm sitting at my desk and this document, this invoice comes through from this vendor. I'm like, oh, okay, we received these quantities, these items. We posted receiving in the system. Now let's go ahead and match that invoice with receiving, which is what I'm about to show is a three-way match. So before I move in further, let's go to the purchase order page, just to kind of give you an example of what we're going to be matching it against. So I created two POs for this vendor. As you can see, we got two of them, right? The PO that was just sent to us from this vendor is for this PO right here. So we want the system to match with this, with these items that have, as you can see, already been received in our ERP system. just to give you an example of what it's matching against. So these POs are in my system. They haven't been invoiced yet, but we received the invoice. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and forward that invoice to that email address. And I know this looks like a little bit of a fishy email, but what we typically have our customers do is we'll have like their IT department create a group email, something like Continia purchase invoices, so that way they can just search for that group email, punch it in, and it doesn't look like a fishy email. But I'll just type in invoice, subject can be whatever. And I will go ahead, drag that PO invoice here. I'll send it. You also do have the ability to import files this way. So if I click this little guy, it'll give me the ability to drag and drop my invoice. But today I'm just demoing everything through sending it via email. So I'll go ahead and refresh. Okay, so I see I have one document ready to be imported. Shows me who it's from, email subject. I'll click import file. So as you can see, the OCR step is very fast. I sent it, I refreshed. It took about 10, not even 10 seconds. Now I got two ready to register. I'll go ahead and click on, I know that it was a purchase invoice. So as you can see, now we have this PO. And what I'm going to do now is I'm basically going to do a three-way match. So if we go to match lines, what the system is going to do now, it's going to look for these items, these quantities, and these amounts to match with this total amount. So we know that this invoice is for in this vendor, right? So it's what the system is doing right now is it's bringing back all the orders for this vendor, right? So I showed you those two orders, and we're going to do a three-way match. So I'll do perform match. As you can see, it now highlighted the open PO of what it's matching with. And the system is smart enough to do that because let's say, the vendor includes the PO number, which is right here. As you can see, it recognizes that. It recognizes all the item information. And from there, I can simply just go ahead and register this document. So if you have a ton of POs for a vendor open in your system, if you do that three-way match, the system will recognize what the invoice is for. And then now I just register. And as you can see, it went ahead and created that purchase invoice for me. All of this information is in here for me. No manual entry. The document is included for archive purposes. So, if you're a business that likes to keep track of those invoices, and if you ever need to come back to one in case you need to send them and say, hey, this is what was on the invoice, you can always use this as a archive feature as well. So here's all that information. It lets me know that here's the receipt that it matched with that already has been posted in the system. Here are those items, the amounts. I can even zoom in a little bit on my document and say, if I just want to double check if this is correct. If everything looks good, I can go ahead and post. Or let's say, it doesn't look good. I can simply just delete it, re-register it if I notice that, something's off or something doesn't look right. You have the ability to also just delete, and it will just get rid of the document for you. So now that we've kind of walked through a three-way match and what that looks like, I'm basically just going to show you guys what it would look like if someone were, let's say, now I have a customer. I'm sitting in my office. Customer emails me an order that they want, right? And they send me, this sales order document. They send me this sales order document. And now I'm sitting here. I'm like, okay, I need to create a sales order for this customer. These items, here's what they want. So now I'll just go ahead and send it through Continia so that instead of me manually having to punch all this information in, it's going to create that for me. So to save some time, let's say I sent it through, and as you can see, now I have something ready to register. since I only had one document ready to register, it took me directly to the document journal for that document. And as you can see, it's extracting all of this information that we basically need to import into a sales order to create it on the fly. And if I go to document, my document card, this is where it's physically picking up the item information that's physically located on the sales order, right, that I need to create. So if I just go ahead and click register, as you can see, it creates that document for us. Here's that invoice, or sorry, sales order that came through from the customer. And it physically picked up all the information and it loaded it for me in my line section. So I don't have to sit here and punch all this manually. It recognizes who the customer is. So all of this customer information is pre-filled. It's picking up the dates. And basically any information that I train the system to pick up when I receive an order from this customer. So everything is ready to go. I didn't do any manual labor. That took me about 1 minute to create this SO. So just wanted to give you an example that it's not only, you know, for AP, you can also use it to create orders within your ERP system. So now this sales order is ready to go. And this document will forever be linked with this sales order in your ERP system. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to demonstrate here today for you guys and kind of give you a better visualization of what it was that I was explaining during my presentation slides. So I hope this gives you a little bit of a better understanding of what AP automation can do and how it can be integrated with an ERP system. All right, so let's continue and we'll move on. And basically, I'll just kind of recap what we went over today. So, you know, we started by going over the use of ERP and AP automation systems and how they can help enhance automation of AP operations within a business. We talked about how the advances in technology, such as optical character recognition and AI, along with cloud computing, have made the technical hurdles to implementing AP automation very low and inexpensive. And lastly, we just want everyone here today to understand that Continia document capture can be integrated with an existing Dynamics Business Central environment, and it can be easily implemented to fit the needs of a customer's AP automation flow. Yeah, so now let's go ahead and move into Q&A. If anyone has anything, any questions or anything of that nature. So, okay, so I see one question. Is the literacy rate for reading documents with OCR accurate enough for business purpose? Yes, it is extremely accurate. I would almost say 99.9% accurate. We've even had cases where we've had people try to extract physical written characters, which it can do. But again, if you're going to be physically writing down something and you want it to extract that information or OCR it, you just have to make sure that it's extremely, extremely accurate. It can't really pick something up if it's written messy, but if you do write something clear enough on a document, scan it in and import it, it can pick up handwritten characters as well. So I would have to say yes to that one. Another one we have, how will the actual project to implement AP automation proceed? So kind of like I explained earlier, if a customer is interested in, purchasing and implementing an AP automation solution, we would first obviously need to sit down with them. We would need to hold a requirement analysis session with them just to go over their requirements, make sure that the OCR automation software meets their requirements, and if everything is met with the customer's needs, we then basically draw out a timeline of when we think everything needs to be completed for the project. We then create those vendor templates for you. So if you give us a list of physical vendors and provide us some invoices or documents, we can work on creating those vendor templates for you. Then once that's created, we move on to what's called the UAT training stage, where we physically work with the end user on training them on how to use Continia, and answering any questions that they may have. That's when we run into if there's any issues with any of the templates that have been created. Once UAT training is completed, we then move on to go live, and then from go live, we are here to help for 30 days to basically kind of hold your hand on any questions or issues you may have. But then going forward, obviously we move into that support role. So if you ever reach out about anything, we can kind of work to help with any questions that might happen after the project has gone live. Another one here. Can dimensions be picked up by Continia during registration process? Yes. So dimensions can be either predefined per vendor templates. So let's say, we know that for this vendor, here are the dimensions that need to be posted. You can kind of predefine that information, or you can also extract it if it's physically found on a document somewhere. You can also have the system pick that information up as well. Right, here's another one. Can Continia make payments like Bill.com? Yes, so through the portal, it does have a feature to kind of make those ACH payments or any kind of a wire that you might want to submit. So to answer that question, yes, that does have the capability. Next question. Different areas of the firm can have limited access for their functions. Yes. So basically like permissions and closing things down, you can set up permissions based on the pages that a user can access. So yes, in order to actually even have the permission to see those Continia activity tabs, a user has to be set up with a permission group. But if we need to make it locked down for a particular team or department, you can do that per document that comes through. What if a vendor has different PO formats per department? Can the system handle that situation? Yes. So depending on how you train the system, let's say, here's one format, I train the system to pick it up. It'll know that when that document comes in, this is that format for the document that's coming in from that vendor. And let's say there's a different layout, but you have to train it. So if it comes in a different format, you just have to basically, when I was explaining the training and educating the system, you can kind of do that as well. But like I said, you just have to train it so that it understands what format it is that's being imported via document capture. Three-way matching, invoices, packing lists, purchase orders. What if the specific merchandise do not match perfectly across all three documents? So if we were to create an approval workflow for an instance like that, you could then, have a notification be sent to someone where if something doesn't match or it needs to be physically looked at or approved, you can also have that set up within the workflow function that Continia provides for you, if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, these are all really good questions. And again, thank you everyone for joining today and just allowing me to kind of give you a better understanding of what AP automation software looks like, how it can be integrated into an ERP system. And, if you guys ever have any existing questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Or, if you send Tensei an email, I know Tensei was the one who sent out the invitations for this webinar today. Tensei, if you could, forward those to me. I'm always here to help. do any research to help, figure out if there's any questions that anyone has about anything. And I'll always work with Continia as well, their support team, to, if there's anything that I might not know, I can always reach out to them for assistance, and they can always help as well. So we do partner with them, and we do have their support, who we work with directly if there's any outstanding issues that we can't get handled ourselves. So just know that we do also partner with them, and they are very quick to respond, and they always help us answer any questions that we have that we also don't have answers to. So yeah, thank you everyone for your time today, and I will pass it back to Tensei to conclude today's webinar, and we can kind of go from there.
All right, thank you, Moses, for that presentation. And thank you all for joining today. We hope you found the session informative and engaging. I do want to clarify that in today's demo, we intentionally broke down the process of API automation step by step, dissecting it and examining it. So some of the parts, it may look like there were a couple of manual work, but I do want to say that in real-time use, this process will be automated and it would be much smoother. So I did want to clarify that part. But obviously, even after this webinar, if you have any further questions or need additional information, we do have a short survey at the end. So if you could let us know there, that will greatly help. We strive to satisfy our clients with every opportunity. So if you have any questions regarding IT, we'll be more than happy to answer them. And with that being said, I would like to conclude today's webinar, and I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much.